All right, welcome everyone to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. As always, I'm your host, Adam Smith, with Just the Tips Coaching. And with me, pretty much as always, is our marketing director, one of our other coaches, Jen Wayborg. Hey, Jen.
Hi, Adam.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's a holiday.
It is.
So it's a
It is a
special
holiday.
episode for us. Not really.
And we're taking the next 2 weeks off. So
Oh, we are.
we are.
Oh, so we're gonna. This is our last cast for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, then we're very, very fortunate to have a fresh, shiny new guest prior to our hiatus, our sabbatical. So please welcome to the show my best friend in the whole world, John Thomas. Hey, John.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, no,
Absolutely.
we're happy to have you. In fact, I think we were talking about it before we went live, but it seems really weird that after all these years, you've not been on our show.
Yeah, kind of weird, but
Well,
But we're here now. It's a
we're here now. I
Yeah.
think part of it is that we're, afraid we're too lowbrow for you.
get out of here.
All right, well, we've been live for probably a solid 60 seconds now, and I haven't dropped an F-bomb yet. So,
Well, I haven't either, so we're in.
All right, we'll see how the remaining 29 minutes go. So, John, we've obviously been friends for a good long while, probably longer than we've been doing this podcast. And I think part of what would be really important for our audience to know is that, well, let's certainly do the normal background shit. How did John get started? Why in the hell did he think he wanted to be in the mortgage business? Those kinds of things. But one of the things that really, I think, attracts our brethren, our colleagues, our, Fight Club friends to you is that you've always kind of done this in a unique manner, to the point where it's off the beaten path enough that it gets us on stage together at certain mortgage events, those kinds of things. I mean, I do things off the beaten path just because, half my brain is melted and I'm absolutely wackadoo. Yours is a really different approach. So I do want to kind of dive into that and what it is that has made John so successful for such a long period of time. We were talking about how 2008 had come and gone and what weird things were going on in the industry then versus what's going on today. And we were already seasoned veterans then. So, yeah, it's been a long, long run here. But, yeah, tell us, John, how did John get into the mortgage business?
I'll give you the condensed version.
Give us the condensed version.
I was teaching high school. I owned a Serve Pro restoration company with a partner of mine, and
Sure.
I was in running a kickboxing gym and fighting myself. So, and that was like my thing I wanted to do. And I ended up getting hurt, having back surgery. Of course, I wasn't smart enough to retire, so I kept trying to fight, but it got to the point where we were building the Serve Pro, which is a cleaning restoration. So I still had to get on the truck if someone called out or if a hurricane came, and it was just too much for me after that. So I sold out the business to my partner, was just teaching, and a buddy of mine from college, the summer came, said, "Hey, why don't you help me do some mortgage stuff?" Because they knew I was good at finance and stuff like that and everything. And I was like, all right, I'm kind of semi-retired from fighting. I got nothing to do with summer, so that's how I got into it. And then, of course, got in the total wrong way. No training. They were doing subprime, and I was like, this doesn't make sense to my brain. So I got in right after the refi kind of run was done. And so I was focused on purchase business, and that kind of led me to how my trajectory went off. I took the teaching element, purchase business, and I was just said, well, let me teach some classes to home buyers. And then I started saying, well, let me teach classes to realtors to try and get in front of some realtors and provide them value. And those two have been my big value sticks since, forever. Yeah. So that's kind
as
of
long as I've known you. Okay, so this is a really interesting path, and I don't think Jen and I knew that you were a kickboxer, and Boy, now I'm really glad that when I've made all those physical threats to you, I didn't. And high school teaching, Jen, that's right up there with
Yep.
librarian.
And Grant's going to be on the show next month, so
Great.
we'll have our librarian back. Yep.
Our favorite former librarian turned real estate agent, Grant, if you're listening or
Well,
watching.
the best part was I had a physics degree and I taught physics. So when I was boxing, they used to, my trainer was like, "You're the dumbest smart guy I know."
I think, yeah, I can't imagine there are a whole lot of professional fighters with a physics degree.
Oh, they didn't even have, they used to call me the college kid because I was fighting in college and nobody was in college that was on the boxing scene.
Okay.
They'd be like, "Oh, that's the college kid."
All right. And yeah, definitely a very weird entry into mortgages, although not too dissimilar. We didn't quite have a subprime industry yet. And of course, for those of you that aren't in the loop, we kind of have one now again,
Right.
Which is, we don't call it that anymore.
Right.
They're touchy about
Non-QM.
that shit. Yeah, it's non-qualified mortgage. But yeah, it's subprime. Just don't tell anybody I said that. Gonna have subprime account executives beating down my door. We don't call it that. Well, you should. In any case, definitely an interesting entry. When was this? What year was that summer that you started to learn the mortgage space?
05.
Okay.
I got it in 05. Yeah.
Okay. And to briefly mention that I've seen you speak, I've seen you teach different events, Mortgage Revolution. What was the one they just recently did a week or two ago in Vegas that
Mastermind.
Mastermind. Obviously, a lot of us don't participate in that event anymore, but I've seen you there. Those kinds of things. And if you don't mind, what kind of content are we putting out there? And I'm kind of steering you into describing how you've really kind of built your career on educating first-time homebuyers.
So the content. So I have a really good blog post that or website I've had since 07, with tons of content, and that ranks on Google and all that. And I'm education-based marketing. So I push out all that content, and then I do my classes every single month. I'm doing them virtual since COVID. I used to do them live every year. I do it once a month live, and then COVID came and went virtual, and then it was just too easy not to go back to live. Plus, there's pros and cons to both, but time is my biggest commodity that I run out of, so it's just easier to do that. So I'll be doing the classes, marketing those for the homebuyer seminars. I'll be doing education pieces. Just my whole business is built around delivering wow service based on the book Raving Fans. I was fortunate enough to pick that up early in my career. So I have videos that go out strategically through the process. Real big on educating throughout the whole process, which kind of goes back to bringing them in as an educator initially in the top of the funnel through the seminar, and then educating throughout the whole process. That also allows me to get in front of realtors because they know I do the classes every month. They can partner marketing with me. Is another strategy I use, even though we know that the realtors traditionally aren't great at getting people into the room for a first-time homebuyer seminar. But just the fact that you can offer them this marketing platform that's done every month for them is a nice value add that you can get in front of them with.
John, I know the answer, but tell our audience where you're located.
I'm in Delaware, a great market. So my market's been terrible. Everyone's like, "Why don't you just move? You'd be retired by now." It is what it is.
I guess that's true. All right. So in the interest of full disclosure, we talk a lot with coaching clients, loan originators, and real estate agents both about first-time homebuyer programs, first-time homebuyer classes, first-time homebuyer education. And I'm not going to lie, there is very little in our industry as intrinsically rewarding as a first-time homebuyer getting a home. No question about it. The emotional reward is top of the charts, but there's always a but, right? First-time homebuyers are tough.
Hardest loan.
We're typically not talking about people with exceptional credit. And we're typically not talking about people that are putting 20% down. And we're typically not talking about people buying $1 million homes, multi-million-dollar homes, depending on your market. I know that you guys in our audience watching, listening live or in syndication have a wide variety of what your average loan amount, your average home's price kind of thing is. So one of the things that we've had repetitive and redundant conversations about with coaching clients, both mortgage and real estate alike, is that these are tough transactions. And the first plateau in our program we want everybody to reach is getting to a point where your business is strictly repeat and referral. That's a very big deal to me. And we all know that people are like the people they spend the most time with. So if you're doing first-time homebuyer work, as John is, then, and while building a repeat and referral business, you're going to be referred more first-time homebuyers. And again, more difficult transactions, down payment assistance. And John, if you want to touch on that, I'll bet you're doing quite a bit of it. Potentially lower credit scores, smaller loan amounts, smaller purchase prices, these kinds of things. Then you are essentially walking down a path that is going to give you a very emotionally rewarding career, but it could also be less rewarding when we're talking about time and dollars. Those are important things. But yeah, let's go back to that. John, does this spawn a lot of down payment assistance work?
Sure. Of course it does. Yep.
Which is even more work. More landmines to avoid, more hoops to jump through, so on and so forth. And I'm willing to bet that of our brethren, and you and I probably know and hang out with and socialize with the top, 250 top 500 loan originators in the country on a pretty regular basis, both digitally and in person. And you've probably got one of the most time-consuming mortgage careers of that group.
Well, my team does.
Okay, cool. Because we're going to move into that as well. Excellent. Glad that you brought it up. But John, you're what, 29 years old?
Yeah.
You've got the matching 5 head that we all do. That kind of thing. No, I'm 29 and I feel great. Let's talk about your team structure, because I do think it's important for people to understand that if we're going to target an audience like this, if we're going to build a career out of workload like this, if we are going to want to help these first-time home buyers in droves. And for those of you watching or listening, John does this in droves. He has a ridiculously high amount of volume that goes through. I shouldn't say volume, of units that
units.
go through, not volume, right? Okay. And the rest of what we've discussed, it obviously leads to that. But yeah, so how does your team structure look, and how does that get handled? How does that flow appear?
So, just to go back, that you were talking about the workload and so yes, you do have tougher loans. You're going to spend more time on a pre-approval. You get a conventional 20% W-2 borrower, 800 credit score. You could probably kick that thing out in less than 20 minutes. You got an FHA loan, 3.5% down, challenge credit. It could take you an hour and a half running DU 20 different ways to get it to go. So, but the one thing is you'll get shopped less. So 800 credit score borrower, 20% down. They don't care about, some of them don't care about service, because I get those too. They don't care about service. It's rate and cash to close, and
strictly about the money.
If they're $10 cheaper, have a nice day, don't even call you back, right? So you got to, there's no perfect one. So you've got challenges no matter which way you go. And if my business turned into move up buyers from all my first time home buyers and refinances, a ton of refinances from that database, but that kicks into what you teach about. You've got to be providing value and stay connected with your database, or you won't get the lion's share of those transactions. So, that segment does build into, eventually, if you do it right, a bigger repeat business. But in terms of my team structure, I want to, come back to that. When you do the volume that I'm doing, you have too many leads where I can't literally talk to every lead. It's not a possibility to do that. And I don't like driving people to an online app because your conversion rate's lower. So I've hired and trained, keyword there, trained team members to make those initial calls. And, we focus on different closes in the process. The first close is, get the info sheet. The second close is get the permission to pull the credit. And then if you green light it, the third close is get the doc so we can review it for a pre-approval. So I have, I just use the term loan partner.
That's a great industry term. No question.
Right. That will make those initial calls. And I've actually outsourced that to virtual position. I have a pretty good training program that I can bring those people in, get them trained up to speed. I have a team meeting every day at 9 a.m.
Wow.
With those people. We talk about every lead that came in. We look at the conversion. So opportunity to, what happened? Why didn't you get, permission to pull the credit? I'm like, I don't think I've ever, if I get on the phone with the lead, I'm getting permission to pull credit. So I'll help them through that. So I'm more of coaching them on those intakes. Now, if someone has to talk to me like a Rosas, John, I got this doctor, can you call them first? I'll call them, do it, but I'm still doing a very good handoff after that point and edifying the team and the WOW experience. And then I'll do the same thing. Then I'll have a licensed originator who gets assigned the file after we green light it and get all their docs. And then so on my team. So I'll have basically a loan partner and then a loan partner that's a loan officer on the front end of the team. Back end, a contract to close. I have someone I call a loan concierge and then a processor. The loan concierge does all the proactive outbound communication, chases down docs, weekly status updates, one point of contact for everybody on that. And then the processor, I can have less processors because they don't talk to clients.
They do the B2B work.
They just do their high level. So I'm real big on getting someone at the highest level they're trained to do as much as possible versus having to come down and do a lower level task that someone else could do. If that makes sense.
How many people are we talking about in total, John?
So, I've laid off a lot since 2022, but so right now I've got me, 3 LOAs, 3 licensed loan officers, and then I've got 1 processor and 1 loan concierge.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty streamlined contract to close.
Agree. I think
we got all the garbage up front. Yep. So,
and it's one of the things that we do in a fairly synonymous way. In fact, we do a lot of this work in a synonymous way. I just won't put on a tie.
Right.
That would be weird.
Wouldn't that be weird?
It'd be very weird.
Even when I get dressed up, it's, suit and a shirt.
We all look at you and wonder what's wrong.
So. No tie. Yeah. I'm the guy whose dress shoes are still sneakers.
Sure.
Okay. So I think.
And again, this, it's funny because this, I wouldn't tell people you have to wear a suit. This is just, if you build a brand, this is the brand I kind of built originally and just kept going with it,
Oh, John, if I saw you without a suit, it would be weird.
It'd be weird, right? Yeah. So, my team sends out memes. Here's John on vacation at the beach with a laptop and a suit and tie on the beach.
I'm going to find you suit pajamas. All right. So I think one of the things that I really want to stress here, certainly for our audience, is that your incoming clientele is a little different than mine. It's a lot different than mine. And your personality, your branding, all of these things are pretty different. However, when it comes down to making sure that people have an experience in the mortgage process that will help ensure repeat clients and client referrals, we do a lot of the same kind of things. I think by industry definition, we've got 5 LOAs and 2 processors. And obviously the job tasks, I guess Mindy would be our concierge, that kind of thing. Erica and Sarah performing at that high level mortgage stuff, so on and so forth. But I've always been a big fan of how Ray Kroc became so successful. And I'm not talking about the real estate development stuff.
Right.
That's the real thing. But I want my operations for a mortgage process to look like a Big Mac. One person does the intake, as we refer to it, gets a credit report, does some basic data entry, opens the box and lays out the bun. Then the next person does some structure, some pricing, puts the patties down and lays on some lettuce. And it's the same on every transaction. And at the end, there is a person who boxes it up and gives it to the customer. And I want them to be familiar with that same task on every transaction. I want them to be comfortable in it. A lot of personality profile work. We really want to make sure that everybody's doing stuff that they're best suited for, that they enjoy doing. It makes us all more productive. I don't have somebody on my team that would quit without finding their own replacement, that hasn't really written their own job description, that hasn't elevated their job to levels beyond what I have asked them to do or instructed them to do, because we're finding ways for them to really enjoy the work, to be really productive, to really and truly interact with clients and customers and colleagues on a very real level that enables us to have that strict repeat and referral business. So I think my Big Mac mentality about it is a lot like yours.
Yeah.
And it just makes for a better process. It just makes everything so much smoother from, contract to close, as you put it. And I think that we find a lot of that with a lot of our colleagues, a bunch that we've had on the show. Jason Sharon does it that way. I'm struggling, Jen. Who else have we talked to that really kind of has the Big Mac mentality when it comes to
I think
processes?
What shocked me, because I own the ServPro franchise.
Right.
You went out for a 2-week training. They had manuals on everything. There's SOPs, there's checklists and all that. And I get in this business, I'm like, what the hell shit show is this?
I am betting that first operation you saw in the mortgage space was not being run the way ServPro does.
No, not even close. So, I just my brain went to, okay, let me get my own SOPs together. Let me get my own checklists, and let me, I love, the book E-Myth is a great paradigm shift book. Doesn't give you the how, why, and what, but it gives you the paradigm shift to tell you got to change your mindset about how runs a business, which is basically what we're talking about. E-Myth is that idea of McDonough filing your business.
The part that really blows my mind with pretty much everybody, myself included, certainly all of our coaching clients, because our next plateau is to make sure that people are only doing things they love to do or pay them really well, high dollar activity. And gosh, the way we all struggle with letting go of the work, with entrusting it to somebody else, with being able to have that mindset shift to the fact that there are people out there that can do it better than I can. We don't believe that. We're all salespeople, right? But that there are people. Jen does her job better than I ever could have done her job. Jen teaches me her job, right? I mean, let's be realistic about this. So, but yes, that paradigm shift into understanding how to make that all run like a top is a very big deal. E-Myth is great. E-Myth Revisited is great. No question. Some really good stuff there. If you're watching or listening and you haven't picked up those, I highly recommend that as something you need to be putting on your reading list. No question. All right. So, John, you've seen so many shifts in our business through the subprime era, through the non-QM era, through the pandemic era, just on and on, right? Wavelengths, roller coaster ride of what the industry does. What are you predicting coming down the pipe?
Geez, I think more of the same right now.
I put him on the spot, didn't I there?
Yeah. More of the same, because we've shifted into a market that's going to be here for a little bit, because it's an inventory challenge. There's no fix to it right now. I don't have a fix for it, other than if people start losing their houses and have to sell them. Because we're not going to create inventory.
Yeah, even then we're not going to create inventory. I mean, we're running at what, 10% of what would be considered healthy?
I mean, I'm just saying, it have to be some catastrophic loss of jobs.
John, we tried a plague. That didn't work.
Right. Well, we let, the government said, hey, you don't have to pay your mortgage for 3 years. So that was, it. And then they put a moratorium in every state almost on foreclosure. So any inventory we would have got through that is just now, literally just now, going to be coming out.
And it's negligible.
you know, they've let people not pay mortgages for 5 years almost.
So I think we've got a culmination of problems here when it comes to this. One of them, historic. Americans don't do multi-generational living. They do everywhere else in the world. Europe, Asia, Latin America. We don't do it here. We all got to have our own space. And I'm guilty. I'm part of that problem. I'm not calling out any boomer behavior. So you older guys don't jump down my throat. It's just that you're an enormous population and you're living longer and you're staying in your homes longer. We're not gaining that inventory. And then Jen, you and your millennial brethren are now the only bigger population, and you're all of homeowning age.
Yep.
The builders, and again, don't jump down my throat here, guys. We're just not building at the pace we used to, literally like 10% of the peak. And I get it. I would be sensitive to that as well. When the real estate market really struggled, 07, 08, builders took it in the shorts. They did. Those are slow wounds to heal. Let's put it that way. And I just think that the combination of a lot of these problems, some really old, some really new, have changed the face of real estate. And I don't think we're going to see it change much, if at all, from what we're looking at now.
Yeah, I more of the same. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm with you. So it's you're going to see a cleansing of the business, which we've seen. I think it's going to be more going to keep happening because there's not going to be. Everyone thinks there's going to be this refi boom to save the mortgage lenders. People are hoping for one. I'm not saying I think they're more hoping, right?
Well, don't get me wrong. We're still seeing a good handful of refinances. We're seeing a lot of
right, but I meant like they're looking for this COVID type.
No.
Refinance. Yeah, I'm saying hoping. People are hoping.
Yeah, we're not going to see
one hand, hoping the other. Yeah. So we don't. So anyone that's holding out for that is going to eventually drop out. It's been holding on, and if you can't figure out how to provide value and get relationships with people that are buying the houses, you're going to be in trouble. So you've got to be. And I always say that it's not that there's a transaction problem. There's enough transactions. The problem is they're not picking you. And I said, if you feel like there's just not enough business, go on your Facebook feed and see how many people are crying they just got a contract or closing. Well, the challenge is it didn't pick you, right?
Right.
So I think for people listening, you got to focus more on how do I get them to pick me instead of saying there's not enough business.
And with the exodus, and I haven't seen any stats when it comes to loan originators, but I think I saw this past week that 80,000 real estate agents have already dropped their license this year. Now, granted, we're talking about a population of 1 million. So
right, it's not that significant.
It's not all that big a number. Right. And for those of you that are in this bubble that John is describing, where there is this struggle going on, know that rates are coming down, right? This pendulum swings. We've talked about it. Rates will come down. Slow, steady, fine. However the pendulum wants to swing, it swings. We don't control that. But for the most part, people buying homes last year, this year, are going to refinance them this year, next year. Fine. There are still a ton of people. And this was a great one from some of Barry Habib's content. And obviously, John and I get to spend a lot of time with Barry. But he was a short format video, may have been Instagram, talking about how people aren't buying homes because they have this great low interest rate on the home they own now.
Yeah.
Which is just stupid. Because if you look at your debt load, your blended rate's probably 12 between your 8% car. These things have been going up. Your 15% credit cards. These have been going up. Sell your house, pay off your debt, buy a house with a 5% rate, 6% rate, and you're still saving a ton of money, right? Same kind of thing in the refinance world. We still see an awful lot of debt consolidation, home improvement, these kinds of things. The business is out there. It's just a matter of, well, I think it's important at this point for everybody to understand, if you don't already, mortgage originators, real estate agents, you're in fucking sales. And what you're selling is you. And just like John said, for all of you, you got to figure out how to make sure they choose you. There's business to be had. All right. So, yes, Jen, I see that we're going to run over our time limit. It's
Shocking.
John. Jen, we're chatting with John.
I know.
And I'd say he put on a suit for us today, but he probably slept in it.
True.
That's probably this week's suit, right? Okay. So, John, you got to come back and do another episode.
Yeah, just anytime, man. I
Okay.
love catching up with you guys. I
Oh,
just
totally.
been a little incognito the last couple of years with my son. You know, I'm a real big commitment to my family. So my son plays competitive travel hockey all year long. You know, he's 16, so now he's got a chance to go to the junior. So that just sucks up a lot of my time. So I don't really go to any industry events because I'm almost booked every freaking weekend. So that's why I've been a little MIA.
Tell
I
me
got
you're
2
from
years
the
left and I'm
Northeast
done.
without telling me you're from the Northeast. I love it.
Yeah.
16-year-old playing hockey. And I did it. We lived through that with lacrosse. Fortunately, I was just sharp enough to raise hockey fans and not hockey players.
Oh my God, it's expensive.
Very actually, it's funny because I had this conversation years ago with Joe Sakic. And for those of you that aren't in our market, Joe is a relatively famous Colorado Avalanche player, is now the Colorado Avalanche general manager. And he told me, and he had a sibling that played hockey growing up as well. And he told me that it was something like $50,000 per year per kid to raise a hockey player to that kind of a competitive level. And I don't know about a lot of my audience here, but I don't have 50 or 100 grand in disposable income to raise hockey players on. 50 to 100 grand a year.
Yeah.
In
It's,
disposable.
Crazy.
yeah, I'd be retired if I didn't.
Raise
Have
a
a
hockey
hockey
player?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's another story for another time. All right, Jen, cut my dumb ass off and
Yeah.
All right, guys, if you want to find out more about us, you can text tips to 63566. This Friday is Social Media Day Denver. So we do still have tickets available. You can get that information by reaching out to us directly or, again, texting tips to 63566. And then as soon as we get back from the 4th of July, we're going to start promoting Mile High Mastermind. We already have some great speakers lined up for this September. So that'll be September 29th and 30th at the University of Denver. So stay tuned for more information about that. But you can also get past episodes of the show. You can book a free hour of coaching with us, get a copy of Adam's book, all things, just the tips, text tips to 63566. Blah, blah, blah.
It must be Monday
Too many
morning.
tips. Oh, it is a Monday for sure.
No doubt. John, thank you. I know carving out this kind of time. Well, for John, it's
We appreciate
afternoon,
it.
but thank you for carving out the time
Thank you, guys.
to do this. We know it's not easy. And yeah, we look forward to having you back on the show.
Appreciate it.
Cool. For the rest of you, thanks for listening or watching live or in syndication. And you can catch new episodes of How I Met Your Mortgage almost every week. We're going to take a couple of weeks off here with the holidays, but almost every week at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And you can catch the podcast. What are you at? About 48 hours, Jen, it takes you to get the podcast live on Apple and Spotify and Amazon podcasts. And we will see you guys in a few weeks. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you then.